spiritual skills for attaining success in everyday living. Now, Ananda Yoga comes from the tradition of Paramahansa Yogananda, our autobiography of a yogi. You see his photo just here behind me. And he was very, very clear that any valid teaching in the spiritual realm has to apply on all levels of being, on the physical level, the mental, emotional level, as well as the spiritual level. And Ananda Yoga does that beautifully. That his direct disciple, Kriyananda, formulated Ananda Yoga from Yogananda's teachings into a distinct, very definite system. And that's what I've been teaching all this time. I too am a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. And this technique, this system has broad application for many areas of life. It's talking about taking charge of stress. It's really only a very small part of what we can do on the more mundane level, quite apart from all that we can do on the spiritual level with Ananda Yoga. So I want you to take that perspective as I talk about Ananda Yoga and I talk about taking charge of stress. Because many people, when they hear the thought, take charge of stress, they say, I'm not interested in taking charge of stress. I'm interested in eliminating stress. I'm interested in a stress-free life. And, well, that's not going to happen, I'm sorry to tell you, because if you're trying to be meaningful in life, anything meaningful, whether it's raising children, supporting a family, being a success in work, changing the world, changing yourself, there's going to be stress. If there isn't stress, you know that you're not aiming high enough. There is going to be stress in life. And Yoganandaji had a couple of very interesting ways of putting it. He said, a wrestler doesn't get to be a better wrestler by wrestling babies. He needs to wrestle strong men in order to improve. The way he put it for the rest of us who are not wrestlers is that he said, bite off more than you can chew and chew it. And that this is going to create some stress. This is going to have us face obstacles in our life. Are going to require us to do a couple of things. One of them is raise our level of energy. And the other is have the mindset that is going to be productive in dealing with the opposition that we get from the world around us. It might not be people opposition. The opposition might come from within ourselves. But the right mindset is so crucial. You know, that a lot of, in the last number of years, a lot of research has been done in the psychological realm about stress. And it's quite fascinating to get into it. I'll just mention a little bit of it here. But one of them is that I already mentioned a meaningful life is a stressful life. And it's been shown that avoiding stress leads to a reduced sense of well-being, reduced life satisfaction, and reduced happiness. And if we have that mindset that stress is bad, stress is something I want to get away from, we tend to start avoiding the situations that could be stressful. So not only will those situations be stressful, but the task of avoiding them becomes stressful. And if we can't succeed in all that, then we start to feel that we're failures, that we're just not good enough. And that really isn't the way to go about it. Yes, sometimes we need a break from stress. That's very true. Sometimes there's just too much. And that is a place where the practice of asana, pranayama, can be very, very helpful. I'd like to show you something. I'm going to share my screen with you here for a moment. And I just have a few slides I'd like to share with you to demonstrate the point. Okay. Now, you're familiar, I'm sure, with a lot of the negatives that can happen when we're dealing with stress. That although there can be an increase in our blood pressure, in our heart rate, increase in inflammation internal to the body. Now, this is a big one because if you follow recent medical research at all, inflammation is implicated in so many areas of illness, anywhere from diabetes and obesity to cancer. And so stress is increasing the inflammation within us. It can also have an impact on levels of anxiety and on levels of depression. So there's some major negative stress markers that can come into play. But here's the important thing to keep in mind. When we have the mindset that stress is bad. And I'll get into mindsets a little bit later, but keep in mind, this is only really if we have the mindset that stress is a bad thing. Stress is something to be avoided. Now, what if you could have some kind of a practice that reverses that influence, that actually decreases blood pressure, decreases heart rate, decreases inflammation, anxiety, depression? What if you had a technique that could do that? A very simple hatha yoga technique that could do that. That would be a great thing. But you know something? There's a lot more. There are other positive things that you can increase, including activity of the parasympathetic nervous system, that nervous system that ratchets down anxiety, ratchets down your eagerness, your emergency or stress response to being calmer, being more relaxed. It activates parasympathetic nervous system. It oxygenates the blood, makes more blood available to the body. This mystery technique also increases heart rate variability. Now, when I first heard about heart rate variability back a long time ago, I thought, oh, this is a bad thing. I don't want my heart rate to be varying. But in fact, it's important to have a healthy degree of heart rate variability. If you don't, it's akin to driving your car and have the gas pedal all the way to the floor all the time. There's no variability in the engine. You're completely at full speed. Well, that's what stress tends to do to people. And this little technique that I want to share with you in just a moment takes you away from that, takes you into increased heart rate variability, which has a strong correlation with your ability to rebound from stress, to not be overly occupied with stress, but rather to keep your mind clear and do whatever it is you need to do. And that's not all either. This technique has been shown. This is research. Okay, this is not sort of yogic lore, although yogis would say yes. This is contemporary psychological research that this technique tends to improve your perceptual processing, your ability to perceive clearly what is going on around you, whether it's what you see, what you hear. That's very important, obviously. Also improves memory. Also helps the state of calmness persist. The state of calmness doesn't help us nearly so much if it doesn't stay with us. It helps to increase your willpower. Now, when I say willpower, what I'm talking about is the kind of willpower that says, no, I'm not going to have that sixth samosa after all. I'm going to practice moderation here. So won't power, the ability to stay away from getting yourself in some trouble. So increase the willpower and the quality of your decision making. Huge factor. Now, what if you could do all this with a single, simple practice. And the fact is, you can. And I'm going to show you that practice right now, and we're actually going to do it. But it is so simple, it's almost unbelievable that it can do this. Here's what it is. It just involves breathing. Breathing diaphragmatically, which is to say the way that little image on the screen demonstrates for you that the torso, particularly the abdominal region, expands as you inhale, relaxes back in as you exhale. So for starters, you're breathing diaphragmatically. Then, breathing through the nose, not through the mouth. Breathing through the mouth has actually been shown to increase stress, to put you into a stress response, because this is what you do when you really are stressed if you're not paying attention. So breathe through the nose. That's more of a calming way to breathe. And breathe slowly, without any strain, but try to get your breathing down to 4 to 5 breaths per minute. For most of us, that's not even much of a challenge. Some of us may need to work on that a little bit, and we're going to practice it together in just a moment. But if you can't do 4 or 5 in a minute, if you need to do more breaths, then that's fine. But no strain, no struggle. This is not really difficult. That's basically just one full breath every 15 seconds. That's not hard to do or to train yourself to do. So diaphragmatically through the nose, slowly, evenly, which is to say your inhalation and your exhalations are of the same duration. And then one final element of this simple technique, you're concentrating on the flow of breath. Concentrating on the breath as it comes into your nose, continuing to carry on as it goes out. Not holding the breath, just letting it flow. So diaphragmatic breathing through the nose, slowly, without strain, evenly, equal inhalations and exhalations, all the while, concentrating on the breath. Doesn't sound too difficult, does it? It isn't. But let's do it now. So I'd like to ask you to sit up so that you allow you to have space for your abdomen to expand, because if you're in a slouched position, you will not be able to breathe comfortably, diaphragmatically. So sit up tall and close your eyes. There's nothing to see in this. And I'm going to time you for a minute's practice starting now. Take smooth, slow inhalation through the nose. And we'll finish that. A smooth, slow exhalation through the nose. Equal inhalation, exhalation, and concentrate on the flow of breath. Just absorb yourself in this simple practice. Just finishing up your last breath now. There. That's 1 minute. So if you can do this, this is not just an in-the-moment stress reducer, but as I showed in that previous slide, with all those benefits, this is something that builds over time. Do this as much as you can. You can't do this all the time during your life when you're moving and doing this and talking with people, but whenever it occurs to you to do it, to breathe this way. So let me break out of this screen sharing and go back to stop sharing. Okay, there we go. Now, I do mention that all those negative effects, the increased heart rate and increased inflammation, and that it's not that stress necessarily causes those things. A lot depends on your mindset, on your opinions about stress, whether it can be good for you, whether it's bad for you. And I'm going to be doing a workshop in January in the NCR, National Capital Region, where our focus is going to be making stress work for you. And we're going to go into cultivating healthy stress mindset in that workshop. Any of you who are viewing here from that area, I invite you to join in that, because it's a very, very helpful skill, and it's enjoyable as well. So now the thing about this breathing technique and many other practices like asanas, you might think, well, asana would be good to help relieve stress because I can stretch and I can open. And yes, and asana practice can definitely assist you with stress. But I think of it as well as this breathing technique in a way like damage control, okay? First aid for stress. In other words, it works pretty much only as long as you're doing it. And we can't do it all the time, especially asana practice. You can't do all the time. So what can we do? Well, this is where Ananda Yoga really comes into the picture big time, because Ananda Yoga, yes, works with body, works with mind, works with heart, but also works very, very explicitly with energy, with life force, with prana. And we can learn to work with more productive ways, work with prana in more productive through the practice of Ananda Yoga, because its very core is working with energy, working with consciousness. And many people think, even today, even in a day when energy has become a familiar word, many people think that prana is something very esoteric, something very subtle that you probably can't even be aware of it, much less could you work with it. But maintain that every person on the planet feels prana every day of their lives. They might just not have a context for it, for understanding that it's not just a feeling, a certain feeling, that it's a movement of energy, a reality, a living reality of energy inside. And it's interesting to look through the English language, where there are so many common everyday sayings that people use that are really direct references to the life force, even though people not recognize that it's a direct reference to the life force. And I'm sure the same is true in many other languages, because it's just how we're made. So in English, for example, things like I have a sinking feeling, or I have a gut feeling. I have a gut feeling about this, or I feel a surge of enthusiasm. Well, enthusiasm, it's a mental state, but you feel the reflection of that mental state in the movement of energy in the body. This happens for us all the time. Now, what happens when you're feeling stressful is that energy gets stuck. Energy in the body gets stuck in the form of physical tension. It creates physical tension within the body, and that sets up a negative feedback loop. The cause is your mental or emotional reaction to a stressful situation. The effect is that the energy accumulates in a particular place in your body, and you feel it as tension. However, that tension reinforces the mental or emotional feeling of stress, which in turn strengthens the tension. And you get in a negative feedback loop between these two. And if we're going to take charge of stress, we need to break that negative feedback loop. And that's another place where asanas can come into the picture. We can stretch. We can open the body. You don't have to be doing an asana. You can do a very immediate treatment on stuck energy in the body. You know, all of us have kind of our favorite places to hold tension in the body. For some people, it's in the neck and throat. For some people, it's in the jaw. Some people, it's in the eyes. You ever feel like your eyes get really, really sort of squinched, that you're holding tension there? I often tend to hold tension backs of my shoulders in the trapezius muscle. Some people hold tension in the solar plexus area, or even in the lower portion of the abdomen, kind of an insecurity sort of tension. Another common place for people to experience that stress response at the physical level, tension in the backs of the legs, as if you want to run away from the situation. So we all have our favorite places to hold tension. And what you can do in most of those places anyway, is you can take responsibility for that tension, which has been inadvertently held just because of your attitude of mind, but you can take conscious responsibility for it by tensing in that area, which is to say, what you're doing when you tense in the area of the body is you're sending more energy to that area. And in that act of sending more energy, it's like you're taking responsibility for not only the tension, the energy that you're sending there intentionally, but the energy that was unintentionally sent there by your reaction to the stressful situation. So I'd like you to focus on your favorite area for holding some tension. I'll focus again on my trapezius muscle, where my shoulders tend to lift sometimes when I'm feeling tension. And I'd like to invite you to re-tense strongly in that area. Go ahead and squeeze it. Really squeeze it strongly. Take responsibility for all the tension that's there. And then relax and let go. And you can do this in concert with the breath. You can take an inhalation. Hold the breath, tense really strongly in that area. And exhale and release it. In fact, you can make it an even stronger practice by using a double breath. A double breath is a short inhalation followed by a long inhalation through the nose, like this. And then a short exhalation followed by a long exhalation through nose and mouth. Most will come out through the mouth, but keep the nose open as well. So let's add that to this tension and relaxation exercise. Double inhale. Hold and squeeze in the area where you would like to hold tension. Double exhale. And relax. One more time. Double inhale. And squeeze. Double exhale. And relax. It's a wonderful way to break up the energy, break up the tension, in other words. However, this is not the ultimate solution, because if all you do is relax that area, again, you're doing pain. You're just being an emergency responder who is not solving the whole issue, because if you just let it go, what's going to happen is the energy will just tend to congregate right where it was before, because that stress response in mind is still happening. So we need to do something to move that energy, to move it to a productive place. This is what we're going to do now, and one more time in this exercise. Let's double inhale. Hold your favorite area of tension, really squeeze it. Put a lot of energy into it. Double exhale. Relax. And now bring your right forefinger to the point between the eyebrow. Close your eyes and lift your gaze toward that point that the finger is touching. Feel concentrate there, not with any tension. Feel like you're concentrating with interest. If you bring your attention there completely, what's going to happen is you're going to draw that released energy to that point, taking it away from the area where it was congregating and taking it to the point between the eyebrows. Now go ahead and relax your hand down once again. You do this for 15, 30 seconds. You'll find a palpable difference. Now, here's a question. Why put the finger up? Why not put it on your shoulder? Why not put it on your big toe? Well, you could. And it would move energy to a different place. But it's very, very helpful if you will practice bringing your attention, bringing your energy to this point. Not actually literally the point on the skin between the eyebrows, and not even the point in the skull, just inside of that, but the point in the brain that's just interior to that. It's the prefrontal cortex of the brain. This is the seat of all our highest function. Our seat of concentration, our seat of willpower, our seat of our ability to learn, our ability to get along with other people in our lives, our ability to perform abstract thinking, it's our reasoning. All of your highest functions are lighting up when they're happening. They're lighting up the prefrontal cortex of the brain. That's the seat of the higher function. Now, why is that important for stress? Because when we find ourselves experiencing stress in a negative way, what happens is a different portion of the brain is lighting up. The limbic system in the center, you might say the bottom center of the brain. So I'll turn sideways, sort of in here from where my finger is. These two parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, have the ability to inhibit each other. And when you're in stress mode, when you're freaking out, limbic system is very active and it is inhibiting the function of your prefrontal cortex, inhibit all your higher functions. Not good. So to choose this point as a place to bring your concentration is very helpful, because it will begin to bring that energy, bring that awareness to the place where your higher functions come into inhibiting limbic function. So this is something you can do anytime to break that cycle of stress, tension, reinforcing the stress, back and forth, getting worse and worse, to turn the tables on stress, to take charge of it, to use the energy of stress to begin to activate your higher functions, to get you back into control, to get the heart rate down, to get the breath rate down, to come into a place where you can function at your highest level. If you do this, this will begin to rewire your nervous system, literally rewire your nervous system. You've probably heard the term neuroplasticity, which is the ability of your nervous system in general, but your brain especially, to change both its structure and its function anytime in your life. No limit. Anytime in your life, your brain is constantly getting rewired according to what you do regularly. And if you do these simple practices regularly, even they, simple though they are, will begin to rewire your nervous system. It's not enough, because we all have a fair amount of momentum behind us, having rewired our nervous system to respond in ways that are not productive, that are not going to ignite our higher functions. We have some momentum to work against. That's okay. Most of that was established through little dribbles of energy over a long period of time. But if we can overcome that past momentum by putting a lot of energy over a shorter period of time and really rewire our brain so it begins to work more the way we want it to work. So that we begin to spend more time in our higher functions. And a huge part of this is cultivating a healthy mindset towards stress. You know, most people think of stress, the little familiar catchphrase that's come into the lexicon over the many, many years now is fight or flight. And many people don't realize that is not the only stress response that's available to us. And that there are others that sometimes it's appropriate. You know, you're in a building, a burning building. That's just great. Fight or flight. You need it. But we have other stress responses. We have other stress mindsets that we can cultivate and need to cultivate. We're going to go into that in some depth in our workshop in NCR in January. I hope you can attend, because there are some easy ways and very natural ways and really very liberating ways to begin to turn the tables on stress and really see it not just as something that we want to go away. No, but something that's actually an aid. Something that's going to help us live the kind of life we want to live. That's going to help us to take charge, not just of stress, but of our own lives. And this is not a point of view that is widely held in the general public. And a lot of research in recent years around it, and it's certainly a yogic teaching, that we can take charge of our lives by putting out more and more energy, but intelligent energy. Putting out more and more energy and turn even the energy of stress into something that helps us live our lives more, with more success, with more fulfillment, with more joy, really. It's going to help us to, yes, bite off more than we can chew and chew. And the interesting thing about this process is it's not painful. It's not dreary. It's not self-deprivation, like we so easily can think of so many areas of self-improvement that can feel like self-deprivation. It's not at all. This is freedom. It's learning to control your inner functioning, even on an outward level, even on a physical level, but certainly on an inner level. So become more and more of the person that we've wanted to be, that we can be, and that all the great masters of all spiritual traditions say that we are the soul. We are that spark of the infinite, the ever-perfect soul that has no business being dominated by stress, being dominated by anything other than the constant experience of joy. It is a liberating process. So I invite you to practice these simple techniques that I've shared with you here, and as often as you can. You know, how many opportunities during the day do you have time to sit for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and breathe in that way? Slow, even, diaphragmatic, nasal breathing, concentration on the breath. Not just awareness of the breath in the general way, but concentration on it. We all have times during the day for that. Take advantage of them. Take take advantage of a simple opportunity to bring your forefinger to the point between the eyebrows, to bring a little bit more activation to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, or if you want to talk in terms of chakras, to the positive pole of the 6 chakras, to activate those higher qualities that are within you and give it a try. And if you can possibly make it to the workshop at NCR in January, I look forward to meeting you then. So we will, my friend Sagar has been here the whole time, and he's been monitoring questions. So we'll have time, I hope, to answer a couple of questions. Sagar, do we have any?
We have quite a few questions. One question is, what's a good posture to be in, to keep the body in when standing or sitting with the spine or such?
What's a good posture to be in? Well, I would say the crucial thing is to keep the spine straight, which is to say in its natural curves. It's not geometrically straight. It's natural curves. So we all know what this is. Just sit up tall, stand up tall. It's going to allow you to breathe the most easily. It's going to allow you to get rid of accumulated tensions the most easily. It's going to enable you the best to be aware of where tension is accumulating in your body. So simple, straight up, sitting or standing position.
Another question is, my work requires sit in a chair in front of a computer or a desk all the day. So are there some quick exercises I can do now and then to make sure my body doesn't get strained?
Absolutely. So many people have to sit in front of a terminal all day long. Well, first of all, you need regular breaks. Every 30 minutes, for sure. You know the expression, sitting is the new smoking. It's as damaging to your health as smoking cigarettes is. So sit in a chair. Get a good chair. Get a chair that enables you to sit up straight. So many chairs, for example, the chair seat slopes downward as you go toward the back of the chair. That's horrible. You can't sit with a straight spine except through extreme effort that way. So sit up tall, take regular breaks, do the tension relaxing exercise. You're not constantly typing. The little physical movements, even if you're not able to get up all the time, but do what it takes to counter that negative influence of the sitting, and you'll be fine. But look into getting a good chair if you don't have one already. One that actually, in fact, tilts your pelvis a little bit forward rather than having it exactly level, or especially not having it tilted backward.
Thanks, Gyandev. Another question one of the students had is, how long will it take to get rid of stress that has accumulated over years?
Over 10 years? How about 10 lifetimes? How long it takes is very individual, but it depends on how much energy you put into the process. Yogananda used to say the habits of a lifetime can be changed in a day. You've simply been concentrating in one way, now you need to concentrate in another way. I know that most people will not put that much into these simple things that I recommended, but if you do, I guarantee you will feel changes very quickly. Not overcoming, perhaps, that will take time, but you'll feel improvements right away.
And I practice Hatha Yoga, asanas, to get rid of stress, but then I get stressed out over doing the asanas perfectly. So what's the fix there?
That's an attitude issue. You need to, none of us does the asanas perfectly. We can't afford that stress. That asana practice, all yoga practices should be pleasant. And if you're not doing them in a pleasant way, you need to start doing them in a pleasant way. Because what you don't enjoy, you won't do. But it's more than that. What you don't enjoy is not giving you the benefits that it could be giving you. So yes, try to do the asanas as well as you can, but well means not like the picture in the book. Well means what's appropriate for your body. And for different bodies, different things are appropriate. If you have a stiff body, if you have a real heavy body, and you're trying to look like the picture in the book, you're straining and struggling to look like that picture, you're abusing your body. You're doing violence to yourself. And we need to back off and find a higher perfection. The higher perfection is allowing for some imperfections. Think about it.
Thanks, Gyandev. And other question is, more than one student wrote that they feel stressed when in the company of people who are overbearing or more successful than they are. And is there a way these techniques can help them feel more at ease in those situations?
Well, yes, they can certainly. And when you can avoid being with people like that, all the better. But in the course of our work or in our family life, perhaps we can't always avoid it. So we need to. Why do we feel stress? We feel stress because we're up against some boundary. Perhaps it's a boundary of self-expectation. Perhaps it's a boundary of the other person is very, very stressed, and stress is communicable. Sorry to say, you can catch stress from another person, and it becomes very important when you're in a situation like that. Do not be in a receiving mode. Be in a giving mode. Send positive energy, positive thoughts to that person. Try not to absorb. Listen, of course, if it's appropriate for it to be listening, but don't suck in the rest of it. And if you're in a giving mode, you won't be able to receive the negative nearly so well. You'll be able to stay much stronger in yourself.
Okay, perhaps a last question. Is there an affirmation that we can do that helps us deal with stress?
There are plenty of affirmations that you can do to help you deal with stress. And one sort of genre of them would be affirming your own strong inner self. One of Swami Kriyananda's affirmations, which I really have enjoyed practicing, is quite simple. It's, I am strong in myself. I am complete in myself. The joy and perfection of the universe await discovery within my inner being. Practice that affirmation over and over again, just with your head, with your heart, and you'll find a change.
Thank you, Gyandev.
So thank you all for your participation. Appreciate your coming. I hope it's been helpful to you. We have more webinars coming up over the next couple months, as well as in-person workshops in NCR and Mumbai. I hope that any of you who are in those areas will attend. And so I will look forward to meeting you then. Meanwhile, we'll have on the screen some slides of details of those. And also you want to listen to the recording of this webinar and share it with friends who might not have been aware of it. Perhaps it can have something to contribute to them. So thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best. Joy to you.